We have to fight this. We're no longer just in an election cycle. We were saying it was common sense versus crazy. Now it's common sense versus communism, and everybody needs to wake up.
So what is going on here? Is this just another way? And I realize there are legitimate issues or concerns from the center right about the positions of democratic socialists. I mean, I'm not negating that, but I feel like that this might be another attempt to split the growing coalition that's criticizing Israel, particularly the one that Eric just described, populists and humanitarian, the humanitarian concerns on the left. It's splitting them by making one side communists in some sort of throwback to the Cold War. And now, what are you thinking about, like, this sort of resurgence of the Red Scare?
I mean, at first I was nonplussed. I was like, who is this? Who is he trying to appeal to? But certainly older voters for whom the framework of the Cold War remains salient, given how significant it was in the lives of many older Americans. I think that in general, there is this perception that the Trump administration has pursued policies that are outside the norm, the locking up hundreds of thousands of people, murdering fishermen in the Caribbean, this horrifying war with Iran. High inflation continues to be a problem, not least because of increasing prices due to the war with Iran. And so I think this is kind of an effort to try to reframe the midterms to say, okay, maybe things feel a little crazy under Trump, but the Democrats are really crazy. They're communists. Look at them voting for democratic socialists. I don't know that it's going to be successful. I mean, again, I think that just at this point, the Cold War or the sort of Red Scare tactics are so far in the past. I'm just really not sure that it's speaking to the issues that voters care about, which for many really is just the affordability crisis and issues of corruption. But it has worked. It has a long tradition of being very effective in American politics. So I imagine that's why they're trying it yet again.
Yeah, I imagine, Eric, that it's very effective as a wedge. When you see populist voices from the left, like, say, the Young Turks, making common cause with Tucker Carlson on the right over the Israel issue, suddenly a lot of these folks from the populist right on Twitter, for example, or rather X, are talking about how terrible communists are and suddenly distancing themselves from these fellow travelers on the left. It might be somewhat effective, or it's a desperate gambit.
Well, yeah, and I'll put my bias on the table is we want bipartisan collaboration to end the wars, and we think that these ending these wars and ending U.S. involvement abroad in a lot of the counterproductive, whether spending or violence we're doing, we think it just has broad appeal. And so, from our bias perspective, we'll be hoping that both the left candidates and any remaining right candidates, we obviously were so appreciative of so many of our electeds on the right who've been now targeted by Trump in many cases, or even the voices that have spoken out who aren't electeds. So we'll be pushing for, continuing to seek that common ground and avoiding those pitfalls. We've seen a lot of efforts by over the years, to try to insert a wedge. And of course, sometimes, as you know, I think the personalities, between, say, Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC, right? They have these feuds. And then when one of them tries to do something positive, the other sees it in bad faith or attacks it. And so, I think we do want to see, we believe that right-left overlap where it can be found is definitely the most potent thing. And we think that, we'll definitely be encouraging both the new folks on the left to the extent possible, and also any remaining kind of right anti-interventionists to kind of try to seek that common ground and build those ties, which I know Quincy and Responsible Statecraft will be doing that as well.